fans and monsters. They exist among us, and sometimes they win. Even the devil was an angel once. The world has its own rules, and these rules are not human. Some of us seek answers to the origin and existence of cryptids and the unexplained. Join us as we venture beyond the known and accepted boundaries. Welcome to our nightmare. I think you're going to like it. Hey folks, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Fans of Monsters Radio, where we explore the strange and the unexplained. I'm your host, Lon Strickler. Thanks for joining me. So if you enjoy our content, then please subscribe, like, and share our presentations, and please leave a comment as well. Super Chat is active during the show, so please show your support for Fans of Monsters Radio by clicking the dollar icon underneath the chat. You can also support the channel by using the Buy Me a Coffee link or banner in the description below or on the banner of the website. So your consideration is very much needed and appreciated. So tonight we've got quite an interesting roundtable. Ryan Paul Tremblay says that I've been a hardcore cryptozoologist, enthusiast, and researcher for well over 20 years. Like many, my fascination with monsters and the things that go bump in the night began very early on. Growing up in New England was the perfect breeding ground for such a fascination. With plenty of wilderness around and our cryptid to boot, I soon began to hear not only of Bigfoot, but then the Dover Demon. As the years went by, I found more media accessibility to my young mind. Books were plentiful and shows began to emerge in the early 90s showcasing cryptid encounters. In southern Arizona, I had my own personal encounter with the dogman. This simply fueled my obsession for cryptozoology. Before I knew it, I was traversing down numerous rabbit holes. Jersey Devil, upright canids, various forms of Sasquatch, extraterrestrials, and finally the Wendigo. Through countless hours of hard work, plenty of literature, and even the reluctant volunteering of information through connections to indigenous people, I found a supernatural creature that captured my curiosity, my determination, and fascination alike. A host of Whisper to a Scream podcast and co-host of Monster Radio. Shane Michael Chris says, I'm 31 years old from Bakersfield, California, married to my best friend of 8 years and have a 10-year-old stepson. Always believed in Sasquatch and UFOs, but never spoke out loud in fear of ridicule since these topics are so tinfoil stuff. Only spoke about it with people who would bring up the topic, which was rare. Now, last August, a co-worker told me about dogman, which I didn't believe in, just laughed at the name. He had me listen to a few episodes of dogman encounters, which he got me intrigued that people are seeing these bipedal canines every day. So I started diving into the phenomena a little more and became hooked. Became an active field researcher at the beginning of January this year and joined the NADP. Along the way, I've come across many other cryptids and started to fascinate me. So when I'm not at work shooting x-rays, watching football and hanging with the family, I'm either in the woods chasing 7-foot dogmen or on the internet reading and watching anything cryptid related, trying to gain as much knowledge as possible. I host and moderate the West Coast Skinwalker Project and West Coast Dogman Project. And William Nighthawk is a Wakasa-Wakan ordained minister for Native American, Indian, and Metis people. A veteran and 32-degree Scottish Rite Freemason with over 35 years of paranormal and cryptid creatures research and investigation. I was raised by a dark black witch parent and has lives in both worlds with surviving nearly two near-death experiences. William Nighthawk is the founder and owner of a Nighthawk High Strangest podcast channel. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. True honor.
So I guess the overall question, the one everybody's thinking about, what the hell is a skinwalker? You know, we've all heard everybody who thinks they've seen a skinwalker. But what is this thing? And, let me start off with William. What is a skinwalker?
Let me put it in this phrase. It's something that walks in both worlds. It's something that is created from dark magic by a dark medicine man or a medicine woman. And that's about all I'm going to say about where it comes from. I have personally done the ceremonies. I've seen the results of the ceremonies. With my own parent being a dark medicine woman. So I don't even know where to begin. There's certain spirits, certain animal spirits out there. Like with our people, it's called Iktomi, the spider, or Shukmani to the coyote, the Pajuta Sapa, the black medicine people that would come and do the ceremonies would wear the skins of certain animals, and the skins of those animals during certain parts of the ceremonies, they would obtain that animal's spirit, and they would have the power to transform and walk in both worlds, in the spirit world and in the physical world. So I don't know if Ryan wants to and further embellish on that, but I think that's a pretty good start. So,
okay, Ryan, go ahead.
Wow, no pressure there, William. You really did a great job with that. But if you want to take a really good look at what the skinwalkers are, I can tell you what the skinwalkers are not. Okay, everybody that runs into something they can't identify in the woods these days says it's a skinwalker, and really, that's not the case. These things, these Yinaralushi, they're something that are very, very feared, as you can tell from William's answer. They're terrifying. They're something that people don't want to run into, and they're not as common as everybody thinks. They are shaman that undergo these initiations. They practice these ceremonies and this magic that's forbidden by their people. And it's something that you don't want to run into these things. They're deadly. They will mess your life up on so many levels. So.
Shane, you got anything to add to that?
Well, everything I've learned is from William and Ryan. Ryan talked about it on one of his podcasts about a few months ago, and it got me really interested in, the skinwalker topic. I know I always thought skinwalkers were more cryptid, but talking to Ryan in the last few weeks, they're more paranormal. It's just things you don't talk about, and that's the thing with them. And their own, like Ryan said, their own people don't talk about it, and it's almost forbidden, and it brings bad, I guess you could say, juju to you if you do talk about it, almost like the Wendigo. You just don't talk about it. But my whole thing was I created West Coast Sasquatch Project, or not Sasquatch, but Skinwalker Project, sorry, and so many of them. But I created it to spread awareness of these things because like Ryan said, people are calling everything a skinwalker. You see a bipedal canine. That could be a dogman or it could be a gugway, but it just gets mislabeled as a skinwalker. And skinwalkers are just evil shaman that are just something you don't want to mess with. So,
yeah. This seems to be, Ryan and I talked a bit about this before the show. When it comes to bizarre phenomena people just don't understand, the first thing that either comes out of their mouth or in the description, it's a skinwalker or a Wendigo, because that's the hot topic now,
right?
For whatever reason. So, and I try to explain to people.
I think that's because
go ahead,
Lon. I think I can embellish upon that a little bit. I think it's something that people are just fascinated about, because it does encompass something that they really can't grasp or understand because it's not from where they came from. Okay, if you were brought up like most Native people, you were taught to from birth to respect it, to respect all magic, all medicine. Okay, whether it's rock medicine, tree medicine, sky medicine, water medicine, animals, you name it, right? Including people. Okay, and when I mean people, I mean all people. I'm talking the star children. I'm talking the cryptids, because personally, my people don't look at like, Sasquatch or Bigfoot, what you all call them. My people, we call them, Big Brother. And if we had any words for him, it would be more of like a guardian spirit, one that watches over the environment and the animals and all that. And the same can be said about any other of the cryptids too out there. Okay, it's almost gotten to the point recently where people have gotten so immersed into it that some people are jumping in with both feet, not even checking how deep the water is. And when they get in, they find out they don't want to be a part of it, because of their fear. Well, I don't know how Ryan and Shane feel, or you feel, Lon, about this, but I think before anybody gets into that type of field, cryptozoology or anything like that, or even ghost hunting, I think you better test the waters first and do your research before you go full force into it. Because you got too many people coming into it. You got too many people coming into it that are so skeptical that they almost ridicule the subject. Okay. And believe me, Native Americans, we've had everything done to us. There's nothing any other race or people in the world that can say that they've had more done to them than the native people of this country have. Any indigenous culture across the world has been stereotyped, has been ridiculed, has been beaten, tortured, raped, killed, all that. And I'm not saying that to bring up the bad part of the past. I'm saying in order to know what's going on today, you have to go back and look at our traditions and our warnings. My people and all the indigenous cultures around the world tried to warn other people that came from other lands to their lands of certain things that went on with the spirits, with the animals, with nature in general, And I think a lot of people just they get into it and jump into it wholeheartedly, and then they get scared. And I think when they get scared and get out of it, that's when the ridicule starts. Oh, there's no such thing as a walker. There's no such thing as Pajuta Sapa, black medicine. There's no such thing as witchcraft. Well, you know what? I hate to tell you, there is. There is a dark side to this world and a light side to this world. And I've grown up in both areas of it. So.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I do believe those of us who have experienced some of that are fortunate because we understand what's really going on. I know I have, just because of my upbringing and people in my family who have been involved with certain things, not deeply, but the tradition, the lore that I have talked to family members and friends about over the years. And of course, when I got involved with J.C. Johnson and other people who understood a lot of, and a lot of the elders in the Dene Navajo reservation and tribe, it opened up my eyes on a lot of stuff. So, and I told all you guys, I mean, I'm not really I haven't really researched the whole Skinwalker, Wendigo phenomena a lot, but I have posted a lot about it. I have talked to people about it. And that's why I like the idea of you guys coming on here and kind of setting the record straight. As far as the Skinwalker and even the Wendigo, and of course these have indigenous backgrounds to them. Is it always witchcraft involved, or is it's something other than witchcraft?
Depends on which one you're talking about.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Okay, well, with the Yinararushi, yeah, absolutely. Witchcraft, the witchery way, is always a part of what they are. The Wendigo or the Wetigo, No, it's a belief. It's a spiritual belief that, if they break certain cultural taboos, such as cannibalism, that's the most popular and most well known.
Mm-hmm.
But if an individual or group of people act with greed and gluttony, or they act very violent, that also brings upon them the curse of the Wendigo. I always like to tell people that there's two versions of the Wendigo. There's the Wendigo, which is the spirit that, the all-encompassing spirit that's always around. Then there's a Wendigo, the person that gets inflicted with that curse from that spirit. So with the Wendigo, it's not always witchcraft, whereas the Yinararushi, that's exactly exclusive where they come from. So if it weren't for witchcraft or the witchery way, they would be what they are. William, you want to add?
I agree 150% with that, Ryan. I agree 100% with that. Also, though, one thing out of respect for the Wendigo, what I was taught from early childhood was we all, instead of, like you said, with gluttony, that will bring on the Wendigo. That's a biggie with Native people. When I was raised by father and my mother, I was taught to make what we call a spirit plate. Okay. And on that spirit plate, before we partake of any meal, we would put each of every item that we were eating on that plate. And we would take that plate outside to the far corner of the property, set the plate down, lay the tobacco offering down, and basically share that meal with the spirits out of respect. And that was a way that we didn't show gluttony, and a way to respect the spirits like the Wendigo. So that's something that we're taught when we were. So
that's actually a very beautiful tradition, too, a beautiful custom.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Shane?
Yeah.
No, to be honest with you, the Wendigo, I just found out when we talked last week that I always thought the Wendigo had the antlers, and you depicted that and said, or debunked it and said, no, that's just folklore, or that's just people's drawings. The Wendigo doesn't really look like that. They look more humanoid than anything. So that really just reset me on the whole Wendigo. I'm thinking seeing something in the woods that has antlers, and obviously the Skinwalkers, wear the animal skins and transform into that being what they're wearing. And I know they take the shape of the wolf and the coyote the most, I've noticed, but I've also heard of reports where they've seen them as owls and, other creatures, but it seems like the wolf and the coyote are the most depicted one, or, one that they see. So
there's a reason for that too. It's because in their religious beliefs, it's forbidden to wear the pelt of a predatory animal like that. It's showing that animal a great deal of disrespect. You're not paying homage to its spirit.
Really? Okay. See, like I say, I'm learning something new every time I talk with you, Ryan and William. I'm learning just as much. I read on the topic every single day. When anything that comes across the internet, hey, I'm reading it. So
that's what you need to do, Shane. That's exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, I'm just I'm a sponge right now. I guess you could say my first year of research. I'm soaking up all the cryptids, but I mean, mainly my main focus is dogman, but I still, it's paranormal with UFOs, UAPs, Sasquatch, Skinwalkers, anything, Gugway especially right now too. So
Gugway are picking up speed, man.
Yes, that's why I created too many pages to handle, but to pay respect and spread awareness of them, because Bigfoot and dogmen take over all the cryptid stuff. I'm like, hey, what about Skinwalkers? What about the Gugway? These things need to be talked about. That's why I created the pages I did. I mean, they're nothing right now, but maybe 5 years from now, that this name Skinwalker, it's already being circulated with Skinwalker Ranch. People are thinking they're going to go out there and see, but really they don't know that the land was cursed by the Utes. So that's what intrigues me, is more the native aspect. I don't care to see a wolf come out of a portal. How cool would that be? But I want to know more about the history on the land and why it's called Skinwalker Ranch.
That's another misconception right there, Shane. A lot of people think that every time you hear a Native American curse, that it's done by a Yinararushi. That's not the case. That's not really ever the case. I mean, unless you hear exclusively that, the Native American that cursed this land was said to be a skinwalker, it's not a skinwalker curse. So just because there's a curse there's not going to be a skinwalker on that property.
Exactly.
That's what they say with LBL, that the LBL has a shaman's curse on there. Was he from the Navajo tribes or no? Because if he wasn't Navajo, it's not Yinararushi.
Exactly. It's pertained to one tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And you've taught me that. And I'm just reading in and listening to your podcasts. And like I say, my knowledge for Skinwalkers has grown from 0 to 25 in just, I'd say, the last month and a half. And I'm trying, like I say, I'm a spud and trying to soak it all up. But when it's not Dogman, it's Skinwalkers right now and Gogwe for me. Those are my top interests other than Dogman.
You want to learn from that guy right there.
Oh, I'm learning from both of you. Like I say, it's an honor just to be on Lon's podcast. But just, getting William had us on about a month ago, and that was truly awesome. And I got to talk to you last week, and just hearing your guys' stuff, I think it helps expand my, knowledge on it. That, one day someone that wants to get into the field of cryptozoology or paranormal, I can pass that knowledge on to them from what I learned from, guys like you guys. So
that's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
So let's, and I'm getting a lot of questions about shape-shifting. Now, of course, with the Skinwalker, it is a form of shape-shifting, maybe spirit enhancement or something manifesting. But are they actually shapeshifters? And I'm talking about Skinwalker and Wendigo.
Skinwalkers are. I mean, if you want to talk about transformation, the Wendigo transforms the victim. It takes them from human to a more primal state. Whereas the Yinarushi, it's done through the means of magic. So whatever pelt they're wearing, that's the form they're going to assume. So it's a very magical kind of shape-shifting. I like to think that magic is a science that we don't understand, that we did at one time.
Yeah,
but we've walked away from it. So we pretend that magic doesn't exist anymore, but it does. We just don't comprehend it anymore.
Now, of course, nowadays we're hearing all about Skinwalker Ranch and because all the the TV show for the most part and other things. But what is the real story behind Skinwalker Ranch? The real meat and potatoes behind the curse, the so-called curse, and why it is called that, or that area around there is supposed to be cursed. I'd like to get your thoughts from each one of you on that.
Okay, who do you want to begin with?
You can start off.
Well, I mean, it was a war between tribes, and that happened very often in history as tribes didn't get along. They didn't coexist. So there would be a curse placed on the land. And not necessarily was this a way of, creating these monsters. It was a way of opening doors sometimes to keep that land sacred. It was never about money when there was, tribes warring. It was about money. It wasn't about belongings. It was because that land was sacred to one tribe and another tribe would come along and desecrate it. So it was about opening doors, and sometimes it would open doors to things that we don't know, that we don't understand. So I think that's where Skinwalker Ranch came in, is they opened some paranormal doors, what we would consider paranormal. And this is why all these experiences keep happening on Skinwalker Ranch.
You want to expound on that, William?
Yeah. First off, you got to understand too, though, and everybody listening's got to understand that the MKUltra, Sacred Mother Earth, has a strength and a medicine, a spiritual medicine like no other. Okay. Whenever you talk curses or hexes and all that, and you involve Mother Earth in that, you're not only getting the spiritual power from the person doing the hexing or the cursing, you're getting the spiritual power from the environment too, from Mother Earth. So you have those two combined, which Native people fear, okay, because out of respect, it wasn't a fear of a fear like running away and hiding. It was a respectable fear, to where we didn't tread on that subject too much, and if we did, we treaded very lightly, okay, out of respect. We have a saying that everything is connected in the web of life. We're all connected. The pine tree, the pole pine tree, and another pine tree that have been known to recently to have the same genetic code that humans have. If they didn't have that, then why wouldn't we be connected? You know what I'm saying? Right. Everything has medicine. Everything has power. And back in the old days, of my great grandfathers, my Tunkashila, they walked with reverence for everything. They didn't put a foot down unless they made sure that that foot was supposed to be there. Okay. They didn't put their teepee up in a certain location unless they blessed the ground and called the grass dancers in to do the ceremony. You know, they did so many things out of respect for the water, for the wind, for the animals, you know, to honor their spirits, to not offend them in any way, for fear out of respect for those things that they wouldn't get retaliated against. Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you talk about the Ute and the Dene wars and all that, you know, that land was sacred. I picture it this way, okay, with my Lakota blood, okay, my people in South Dakota, you know, the most sacred land to us was the Pahasapa, the Black Hills, okay? Mm-hmm. That was where we did our ceremony, where we buried our people, where we just we connected with Tunkashila, you know, Wankantanka, you know, the Great Spirit, you know, we did everything there. That was the most sacred land available that we had at the time to my people. And it was taken from us because of what? Because of greed, gold. The white man came and found gold. And then that's when President Grant, Jackson. President Grant actually.
Jackson's got enough baggage.
yeah, Jackson's got enough. So, but President Grant, that shows you I don't really like following the culture too much. But President Grant actually was the one that put a $300 bounty on the heads of my people to get us out of the Black Hills so they could take it over. And then in 1920, they brought the one architect in that was a member of the KKK that did their ceremony and started putting the 4 Indian hating presidents on the side of the mountain. Mm-hmm. So, and at the same time, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. He signed the death warrants of over 330 Native people at the same exact time within that same pen stroke. So, you know, and the same with George Washington. I mean, he put Native people against Native people in the Revolutionary War. You know, innocent Native people that were just there because they were promised something, you know, and then go 250 years in the future, which today, and you wonder why there's so much talk of skinwalkers being seen or window problems or, you know, Bigfoot or, you know, Mothman or, you know, any cryptid, or even how about spirit activity? You know? So it ties together. It all ties together, you know, whether it's a skinwalker and all that. You know, my people, we call them the Wanaji Shukmanitu, which is basically coyote spirit. But we have a respect, you know. When you do the ceremonies, and like I said in the beginning, you know, I've done both. I've done dark and I've done the white. So, you know, I've done some things I'm not proud of in the dark ceremonies. Some things I probably would never be, I don't even want to say forgiven for, but you know what I mean? I regret it. Let's put it that way. Okay. So, but that being said, shapeshifting does happen. But like Ryan said to begin with, difference between shapeshifting and spirit possession. Okay. And a lot of people that don't know the native cultures and stuff around, you know, the United States and Canada and even South America can't distinguish the difference between the both. And that's why they're saying everything's a everything's a skinwalker. You know, they see a dogman, that's a skinwalker. They see, you know, a chunk of work on, that's a skinwalker. They see a Bigfoot, that's a skinwalker. A Gugway, that's a skinwalker. You know, not everything is a skinwalker. Okay, skinwalkers, you know, are gonna be derived from black magic. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. Shane, if you want to take it from there, brother, go right ahead.
Oh, well, the one thing with the whole shape shifting and people seeing these wolfmen, you know, that I believe size is also a different factor to it. The skinwalkers that these people are seeing are reported to only be, you know, 6 to 6.5 feet tall. But when your typical bipedal canine, which is the dogman, anywhere from 7 to 8 feet. So you think that the size, I keep getting that the smaller they are, unless they're juvenile dogmen, maybe, but I think there's more to it. I have a buddy out here in California that tracked one for 10 days up in Northern California, and it was a wolfman, but it was, it's a skinwalker. He'll even tell you that. He's got tracks, he's got all the stuff, and he's not saying it's a dogman. He says it's more wolf looking, and he's caught pictures of it on his trail cam. And I mean, the casts don't look anything like what a dogman print would look like. It has the heel, and it has, look, it was digging into the ground. So, but back to the Skinwalker Ranch thing, I do believe there is paranormal activity. I don't believe you're going to see the Nautalushi there, or, you know, the Navajo Skinwalker.
No,
there is paranormal activity. When, what was it, Terry and Gwen Sherman bought it in the mid 90s? Their cows were getting mutilated and stuffed into trailers. You know, 4 to 5 cows in a small 2-horse trailer. How's that happening? There's something paranormal about it. And then when they sold off the land, and then was that Brandon Fugel bought it in 2015 or 2016? I think now it just became a research lab that all these extraterrestrial sightings and wolves jumping in through portals. And I'm not saying that they're dogmen, because they're all on all fours, but they're just large wolf-like creatures. And that, I mean, there's something to it. I do believe the land is cursed, but I don't believe you're seeing skinwalkers every single time. There might be different things that I do believe that their UAPs do have there aren't little green men coming in, you know, and dropping these things off. I do believe these things are all somewhat paranormal or interdimensional.
Yeah, the chunk of Wurakon too is from the area of Skinwalker Ranch too.
Is it?
So I mean, not like everything that Shane just said, you know, not everything can be labeled a skinwalker, you know.
Right.
So I mean, there's other mysteries to be solved out there, people. You know, there's a lot that Native people haven't divulged to you all. I mean, you know, and you're coming up on a generational curse, and I'll explain that too a little later if you want.
Okay.
You know,
we were talking about Skinwalker Ranch. You know, I don't think Skinwalker Ranch is really much different than a lot of hot spots throughout the world. I mean, in particular here in North America, because there are areas where you get a lot of different stuff going on. I mean, you know, you'll get into a case, and as researchers, you all know this, you'll get into a case where it's one phenomena. And then as you start getting into the case and getting into it, start talking to the witnesses, there's other stuff involved with it. There always seems to be something else involved with the actual case. Recently, we had an upright canine case that involved spirit activity. Many times we'll get Bigfoot cases here in Pennsylvania that involve UFOs and other phenomena.
Yep.
I don't think maybe that Skinwalker Ranch in particular is just eating shorts. It's the most famous. I mean, it has been written about and stuff, but I think there are other areas just as well that have a lot of activity that are just unexplained, and there's some ties there.
I'd agree with that.
Okay. Curses. Now, Vince had asked earlier, what do you think these curses last forever, or can they actually be lifted? You know, you talked about all the atrocities that the American government and military put upon the Native people, and we all know about we know about that. And do you think any of that can ever be lifted? Is it now that it's just starting to come forward, and showing itself. What are your thoughts on that?
Go ahead, William.
Who are you asking?
Go ahead, William.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have your typical curses that can be lifted by any Wachashawakan, a holy man, if it's done right and out of respect, and the spirit of the ancestors actually accept it, so accept their gift and their give their approval of diminishing the curse. But there's also what we call generational curses. Generational curses are like the curse that was put on the Pahasa against the white man back in the day. My father and his father told me that the curse that they put on would last 10 generations. That's a generational curse. Okay, that's the difference. That there's going to be 10 generations of those people that were directly involved with taking our sacred land from us and doing what they did to it. And those 10 generations would suffer the consequences, whether it be poor health, whether it be poor finances, or, you know what I mean? It could be really anything. But there are things everything's based on faith. Okay. I have faith in what I used to be able to do and still do. But I also have faith in the Creator. He's not going to have anything done to his people and his children that he wouldn't approve of as a test for us. So I don't know. I mean, it's just, it depends. Curses can be lifted, but you also got to figure the faith of the person involved too in that curse has got to play a role in it too. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're strong faith in whether it's Catholicism, whether it's Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, whatever your faith is, if you stand strong in your faith, you can defeat anything.
Oh, I believe that.
That's very true.
I believe that.
Yeah, that's just that's the whole premise of faith. And I mean, if they wouldn't have removed all the Old Testaments and stuff out of the Bible, like the book of Jubilee and the book of Thomas and Mary Magdalene and all that, which I have studied too. They'd realize that there's a lot more to Christianity than what's in the current King James version. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, you're right. There was a lot removed. I mean, yeah. Well, anyway, now each one of you guys, I think some of you have had some encounters. Why don't you tell us a bit about them? Ryan, you mentioned that you had an encounter in the description. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, actually, I've had two encounters. I had one with a type 2, that's the hyena variant of a dogman. And I've actually seen what I think it might be a Duende or something along those lines. But with the dogman, I was actually watching my friend's house where I live, and he was gone on vacation, and so I was doing check-ins in the morning, afternoon, night, and I happened to go about midnight one night, and I heard some kind of weird noises down by the tree line where the riverbed would be. And at first I thought maybe it was vagrants, because we get a lot of vagrants that travel along the riverbeds. So me being the smaller guy that I am, in order to drive anybody off, I kind of puffed up a little bit and I was yelling, "Hey!" And at first there was nothing, like everything just kind of went silent for a moment. But then the noises started up again. So again, me trying to puff up and be that little puffer fish, I'm all, "Hey!" And this time I was answered back with this really, really deep growl. And, since that didn't register on me at first, I was thinking, oh, is this a mountain lion or is this a bear? Because it's not something you hear commonly in a small town in Arizona. So as I'm just standing there looking around to see if I can see anything, I do see something in silhouette. And it growls at me again. And this time I can feel the growl just resonating in my chest. I mean, my ribs are shaking from this. And my lungs are pounding from the vibration going on. And so I'm rooted in place. I'm frozen in fear. I don't know what it is I'm hearing. And just as this thing gets closer, the security lights on the back of my friend's house click on. And as the lights came on, I saw the amber eyes like you're seeing in the picture on the screen right now. And I could see the facial features, and I could see the kind of arched back and the fur. And I was looking at a bipedal hyena. I'm looking at this hyena-like thing. And I'm going, okay, wait a minute. There's a hyena in Arizona now? Why is there a hyena in my friend's backyard? So there was some degree of common sense that was still sticking to me because I'm going, well, there's no hyenas in Arizona. We don't live near a zoo. What is going on here? And this thing just like kind of stands there staring at me for a moment, and it bluff charges me. And right there, I mean, I probably should have ran when it bluff charged, but I was just so afraid that I just couldn't move, man. And it was probably a good thing because it stopped bluff charging, and it just kind of started staring at me. Like I'd see its head tilting one side to the other. Its ears are going up and down, and I'm staring at it. It's staring at me. So, finally I'm getting some wits about me. I'm going, okay, don't look this thing in the eye. It's bigger than you. It's 15 feet away. It's obviously faster and stronger than you. So if it wants to eat you, it's going to do it. So don't provoke it. So I'm not looking this thing in the eye. I'm trying to stare away. And I guess maybe it just got bored with me. It started to slowly back away. And as it started to back away, I could hear it snapping twigs and, stepping on rocks and kicking the ground. The minute it was far enough away, I bolted inside my friend's house, man. I'm locking every single door there is. I'm slamming the windows shut and locking them. I'm looking for his knives or any kind of protection I could have. And I called him up on the phone going, hey, yo, man, when you get back home, check in your backyard. There's a bipedal hyena in your backyard. My friends were laughing at me going, Ryan, there's no hyenas in Arizona. I'm like, yep, right. Well, I just saw one. So explain that. So what happened is when he got home, we went back in the day. I didn't want to go. I'm just, I'm keeping my distance going. Yeah, I'm not going back there. You let me know if you see anything. He did find scuff marks from where this thing had been standing. So that right there really pushed me into researching into the hyena type cryptids, the hyena dogmen, more so than the ones that I hear more about. And so I have been looking in my area in the riverbeds because I like to believe they follow the creeks. That if there's a riverbed, they will follow the riverbed for food, for shelter, for all the good stuff that they need. So that's where I've been looking into those types of cryptids. And for the Duende, I think the little person that I saw was actually not too far away from where I had the dogman encounter. It was where I do my research in the riverbeds. And that one's not as traumatic as the dogman story. I mean, I was walking with my dog, Duke, who I take on all my investigations, and I'm hearing this trilling like noise. If you picture the sound that the predator makes, only much more high pitched. It's, very, very loud. And I'm looking around going, what is making that noise? And I couldn't find anything. And it kept making this noise. I kept hearing the whistling over and over and over again. And at first I didn't know what it was. And as I rounded this bend in the river, right there at the bottom of this hill is this little person staring at me. And I mean little. He was like maybe about this big. So when I say little, I don't mean 3 feet, 4 feet. I mean very, very little. And he's wearing little, it looks like squirrel fur for his cover, for his clothing. He's even got a tiny little loincloth on, and he's got a long stick that he's using as a weapon. He just kind of looks at me like, oh, it's just you. And he runs up the hill and he disappears.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This whole hyena thing, we've got them here in Pennsylvania. And we've had several sightings. They're mostly quadrupeds. There have been occasions when they do stand up as bipedal, but we have seen them. And the characteristics that we get are described to us is the head is almost like a wolf's, but the back is sloping like a hyena.
Yeah,
it's got the hyena markings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very short tail, like that, like you're seeing right now. And and they're very menacing. We had one case around Tuscarora National Forest, where this deer hunter was up on his tree stand, and this thing, he saw it coming in the field, and he was on the edge of the woods, and this thing literally walked up to him, sat down on his haunches, and was looking up at him and just watching for like 15 minutes. And he said this thing was huge. He said, I had a 30-06. I was not taking a shot at this thing. He said, this thing looked so muscular, I'm sure it could run up the tree after me. It was just, he said it was muscular. It looked like a hyena, but it had the wolf head. It was menacing looking. but it eventually just got up, walked away. He said he stayed up in that tree stand for 2 hours, not knowing if this thing was still walking around.
I don't blame him.
We get these hyena like canine cryptids a lot.
Yeah, actually, I ran into a guy that's a paranormal investigator down where I do my research. And what I found really interesting was this guy did not know who I was. You know, I hadn't spoken to him, and so there was no chance for introduction. I was going down this tunnel, and he told me to be really careful when you reach the end of this tunnel because he saw what he described as two hyenas on their two legs with a baby. There was a pup there. So him not knowing who I was and not knowing that I had seen a hyena type cryptid, that really caught my interest because it's like somebody else has seen this then. This guy saw 3 of them, not just one of them. He saw a family here where I'm doing research. So that really got me like, oh, yes. You know, I was very excited about that.
Wow. I want to thank Karen for her donation. Very much appreciated. So, William, do you have an encounter you want to talk about?
Which
maybe not.
Yeah, this could be a long conversation. I've had pretty much every encounter you can think of growing up where I grew up. I had my first actual Bigfoot encounter when I was 12 years old, riding dirks, and we were riding around in this big open field, and the whole size of the field was all lined with trees and hills and mountains and all that, and basically went around a couple times, and something told me just to stop and get off the dirt bike. So I got off the dirt bike, turned the fuel off, and I looked down towards the head where we came in at, and there was about a 9-foot tall Bigfoot standing there with its arms up in a tree, reaching up in a branch. And I couldn't really make out if there was a little one with it or not. I'm kind of thinking there was. And the way it was positioned, it was sideways to me. And in fact, hold on a second here. I'll get you some graphics. For the proper show and to actually show something. But this is what I saw sideways. Okay. I couldn't tell if it was a female or a male. All right. But it was every bit of about 9 feet tall. Okay. Maybe 8.5. The same shape of the head and the shoulders and everything. All the way down to the ankles, man, is what I saw. Okay. And it was reaching up in the tree. All of us saw it. And, you know, being that young, we just kind of just stood there in awe. And we kind of looked at each other. And then by the time we looked back up, it was gone. It wasn't there. So, and I mean, it must have been no more than about 2 or 3 seconds and it was gone. We went back through the trailhead entrance with our motorcycles and we stood on the seats of our dirt bikes trying to reach the branch that it had reached up in the tree at. And we couldn't even touch it standing on our dirt bikes. It had to have been at least, that branch had to have been at least 13, maybe 14 feet in the tree. So the second time was about a week later. And we were riding dirt bikes again, different spot though. And it was coming around the woods and all that. And I was taking my turn on my dirt bike, you know, and next thing I know, this branch was thrown out in front of the wheel of my bike, and I flipped over the bike, and the bike landed on me, and I looked up, and here's this humongous, about the only way I could describe it was, and being a kid at the time, you know, you picture the Hulk, and you put rabbit fur on him, you know, like black and gray rabbit fur on him. And that's what I saw, you know. And it looked like this.
Whoa.
When it was walking from me.
That's terrifying.
It turned and it looked at me. it turned and looked and said, you know what? I know you're not going to get off your ground and come after me because I'm bigger than you are. So, but yeah, and it kind of smirked when it went away too. It was like, I got you. But I looked off to the right where it was walking, and there was another one further down. I could make it out behind a tree, and there was a deer there. So I don't know, interrupted him hunting, and that's why it. So I've always tried to figure that one out. But yeah, I've had several encounters. I've had encounters with dogmen. I've had encounters with Skinwalker, and that's only because of the what my parent was doing at the time. So I got to see that firsthand. Something a child should not see. Let me put it to you that way. But yeah, there's the couple dogmen that my wife and I had a run-in with one time, walking her little. It must have been about 11 o'clock at night, and there was. They were at first. We just heard the growls. The very distinctive canine growl that basically shook your insides and woke you up. It really did. That put us on our guard. And I always, I walk around here because we're out in the middle of nowhere, basically. I always carry a sidearm with me wherever I go because of, the wildlife around here. I mean, we just saw a mountain lion not more than a week ago. So, we have them here because we have mountains. So, but, make a long
they're
story,
back here in the east. There's no doubt about it.
And, oh yeah. Ever since they introduced the wolf and the elk to back into the Appalachian Mountains, they've definitely come with it. So, but we've seen our share of weird stuff here in Virginia too. But I mean, I've seen everything, Lon. It'd be too long of a program if I talked about just what I saw. So,
well, I appreciate what you told us. Shane, have you ever had an encounter?
Well, I've only been researching for the last 7 months personally with my wife, and at first she thought the whole thing's crazy, but I'm like, hey, there's something I'm really curious about, and I'm more into the dogman than any other cryptid, and she was like, hey, I'll tag along with you. So we're in this together, and never had an encounter, but we've had, I believe, sightings or like structures. The area I go to is east of Fresno, and here in California, and it's up in the mountains, and it's really known for Sasquatch. In the last 4 to 5 years, there's been 2 to 3, I believe, possibly 4 sightings of dogmen. So I go up there, and that's where I drive about 2 hours when we get there. And I'm actually seeking an encounter, as the crazy say, don't do that. I want to see it with my own 2 eyes. I believe Ryan's encounters. I believe Williams. Everyone that says they've had an encounter, I believe them. I kind of just want to get those facts for my own self. I have more questions than I want answered. And the area I go to, we recently came across tree structures and dens, and I've sent those to a good friend of mine, D.A. Roberts, and he said that looks more like dogman den because I guess the Sasquatch dens are more woven, and these were just like tree branches that were just thrown together. And then I got a print of what looks like a canine. I know it's not wolves because we don't have wolves in California. Northern California, they're reintroducing them slowly, but the last wolf that was eradicated was in 1924. And this area alone, there's no wolves. There might be coyotes, but the print that I do have, it looks a lot bigger than a coyote. And I think, in the 7 months, we've been in the woods up near Springville, California, and it was snow all on the ground. When the wife and I were hiking in, we hiked about 1.5 miles in, but the woods was totally silent. And I've been told since day one that when you hear no birds chirping, crickets, nothing, that's a sign of an apex predator or something's in the woods. So to me, that's also Sasquatch territory. Maybe we were being observed. I've never had a physical encounter or a sighting, but the tree structures and the prints, I think I'm almost there to get that. And then once I do get that encounter, it's going to answer all my, even a sighting would just seeing it run up beside the hill or across the freeway. That's what I'm hoping to see. And then once I do, I'm out of the cryptid community. You answered what I do. I'll still be friends with William and you, Lon, and William and Ryan and Vincent, everybody. But I have a passion right now for cryptids, especially dogmen. So,
that's what he says now. But watch, when he sees one, he's gonna get sucked right in.
My wife says the same thing. She's like, "You really gonna give up all your West Coast and all your friends?" And I was like,
No.
"Well, I made her a promise, and that's something I try to keep." And I've said I'll still listen to the podcast and still talk to people.
No, it's not gonna happen that way, bro. You're gonna see one and you're just gonna get pulled right back in.
Yeah, she says the same thing.
I had my encounters, but when I had my first one, I got sucked in exactly. And all I was doing paranormal sightings and spiritual and spirit rescue. I'm an intuitive. I was doing work with people and individuals and such. But yeah, when I had that encounter with the Bigfoot in '81, that's where it all started at. And it was just like it just kept, it kept going and going. But right now we're working because it's been busy this year. We've got 4 active cryptid canine encounters here in Pennsylvania right now.
Wow.
That my team's working on. Yeah.
Yeah. The NADP says that Pennsylvania and Arkansas are the 2 hot spots right now, with all the
it probably
activity.
Is. This is probably the most active summer that we've had. I guess since 2013 when Butch and I started really looking into it. But yeah, they've been real, and some of them are really weird too. It's not your typical sighting. I think Vincent can probably put some pictures up of some of the ones that have been described to us. But yeah, it's bizarre. So let me ask you about portals. Now, first of all, what is the Native people's thoughts on portals? Do they exist? Or is it part of the culture, or what is it? How about it, William? Can you answer that for me?
Well, we didn't know what to call them back in the day.
Right.
Because you could travel from one realm to another, so we didn't know that they were portals or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, with any indigenous culture, you're going to find legends of where people are 1 minute walking there and then the next they're gone. So you have it nowadays more frequently than ever, especially in the national forests, which is a completely different animal altogether. You look at all the 411 missing cases that are out there, and then the ones that don't turn up missing that are actually found 6 to 10 miles further away that had no idea that they could even get to that location in the short period of time that they were found in there. So there was one case that I can recall up in where was it? Yosemite, where a little boy was lost, a little 4-year-old kid. And they found him, a day later, up in like a high mountain, 6,000 feet up in a mountain area, where he would have never been able to get to. So I mean, either he walked into a portal and ended up there, or a cryptid took him there. I don't know, but I mean, your guess is as good as mine. But
yeah, I mean, if you're open-minded, if you're a cryptozoologist or you're looking into the phenomena and you're open-minded, you almost got to agree that there's something just unexplained about what's going on, how people just disappear or people end up in other places, glitches, time slips. You hear or read about it all the time. I've never experienced it, but I have talked to some pretty reliable people that have. And I mean, this all comes back to what people believe that cryptids really are. Are they interdimensional beings? Are they ultra-terrestrials? Do they come from another reality or dimension? Hey, I believe there are indigenous cryptids. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
but I believe also in some areas that they do have the ability to just show up by whatever mechanism or whatever they do. I mean, could this be related somehow to the native lore? I mean, I'm asking anyone to come forward on this.
Well, I mean, there's nothing saying that flesh and blood can't walk in both worlds.
Well, that's true too. And I'm saying, and I am agreeing that I think a lot of these are flesh and blood beings, even though they do move beyond worlds. I believe that entirely. Right.
Now, whether you talk, whether, you know, certain cryptids were genetically enhanced by the military-industrial complex, or whether you talk about aliens that are, you know, well, take, for instance, the cattle mutilations. Perfect example, you know, taking something and trying to mutate it into something to either continue your species or develop a whole nother species. That's the only reason they're going to do genetic testing. So, but yeah, I mean, you could chalk some of it up to being alien. I've even heard stories of forest people walking in, you know, the Forestry Service people walking out in the middle of nowhere and stumbling upon aliens, and 20 feet from an alien, at where the alien was pumping something out of the ground. There was a 20 feet away, 30 feet away, there was a 9-foot tall Bigfoot standing guard. Right. So, I mean, you know, I mean, it's anybody's guess, you know, and anybody that says that they're an expert, I'm sorry, I don't mean to burst their bubbles, but nobody is an expert.
Nobody's an expert.
Someone says they are, it's like, sorry.
Exactly.
There's, you know, I hate going on the show and somebody said, yeah, he's an expert. No, there are no experts in this field. I mean, any as far as the paranormal, you're on all levels. You know, you're not an expert. That's just the way it is. Right. You know, if you had the explanation for everything that's going on, then maybe you are an expert. But you know, I don't know of anybody that knows everything. So
no, I think if you're a researcher or a cryptozoologist, I mean, one thing that we learn as researchers is we just don't know. You know, that's the one thing we can tell people is we just don't know. We know that we don't know. That's about it.
Exactly.
That's it. That is it.
Yeah.
That is it. Yeah, exactly. And
theories change every day too, though. I mean, with certain things that come up, you know, for new information that comes available, you know, and theories and speculation and all that change over time. So, you know, all I'm putting into it is my personal experiences and my native background in dealing with the subject. So, you know, I'm by far as no means an expert in any way, shape, or form. I'm just an old Native American man trying to, you know, survive. So, you know, Shane's more of an expert than I am. I mean, you know, he's the one that actually gets in there and does the expert, you know, basically the groundwork. I mean, and Ryan, they're the ones that get in there and do the research and all that on the legends and the history and all that.
Yeah,
I'm the one that was out there, you know, in my youth and in my, you know, young adult time, that I spent a exorbitant amount of time out in the wilderness in the middle of nowhere, and that's how I learned all, you know, growing up being Native American. So, you know, yes, I have my encounters still today. But, you know, the last encounter I had was back in probably about a year ago. I'd say about a year ago. Yeah, I mean, we're all learning, and nobody's a professional or an expert in any way, shape, or form. But we all need to definitely come together and talk about this and get it out there in the open and work on some kind of rationale and theory on what's going on. So whether it's cryptids, whether it's UFOs, whether it's, you know, mysterious mysteries of people missing and vanishing. I mean, there's so much going on out there that, you know, people need to talk. They need to get together and just clang their brains together, you know, and carry on conversations, because that's the only way you're going to find out the facts. So
yeah,
Agreed.
well, that's why I like doing these roundtables. I mean, it's I'm talking to people who I, for the most part, have never talked to before. We get all kinds of different perspectives on a lot of different things.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I've been doing this 45 years. I learn every day, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
That's what you should do too. It should be learn as you go.
yeah,
And learn something new every day. You know, never close yourself off to somebody else's opinion or ideas. Absorb it all like a sponge. You know, like Shane does. You know, he's so open to learning folklore and science, and you know, he's just so willing to work with everybody. That's how everybody's got to be. You know, I mean, we can't just deny folklore for science. We can't deny science for folklore. We got to blend them all together and really work together on this.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, Andrew asked something about public ridicule, and you know, sure, there's a lot of public ridicule.
Of course,
but I don't think people ridicule as much as they used to.
I agree.
And I think it has to do with the internet, TV shows, and all kinds of things. Not that I necessarily believe in the TV shows and some of what they're putting out there, because you know, it's a lot of production.
It's
value.
become popular.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And they ridicule me. I'll send something to pay them a visit. I said they ridicule me. Yeah,
send them a skin.
Yeah, I've been there.
There you go.
I've been there. Oh my God. Yeah, you know, Vincent asked something about what your thoughts are. Is there an indigenous connection to deer women and the not deer phenomena? You know, this is something that I've been getting more of the last couple of years, especially the not deer, where people see something that looks like a deer, but it's got a lot of humanoid qualities to it. It's got the front setting eyes. A lot of times the limbs are somewhat different. Has some muscular, you know, human muscular aspects to it. What are your thoughts on that? Are these just shapeshifters, or are these natural beings, or what? What are they?
Well, if you want my take on it, I mean,
take it, Ryan.
Not deer is something I have a hard time wrapping my mind around, and I do have to wonder if maybe people are seeing deer that have the wasting deer disease or the zombie deer disease.
Well, that's always my question. Yeah.
I mean, is it possible that this disease is just mutating these guys so much? Absolutely. Now, as far as the deer woman goes, I mean, I don't think people really realize how bad the deer woman can be. You know, it's a very, very, very strong spiritual belief that she's always seen for a purpose. And if there are people seeing this deer woman, there has to be some kind of logic and reason behind it. She doesn't just appear to people and tease them with, hey, here I am, and then go away. As William will tell you, she too has a purpose. In the indigenous people's lore, everything has a rhyme and reason, okay? It's not like our urban legends. And I think people need to really start differentiating the two, that indigenous people folklore is not the same as, you know, urban legends at all. Everything in the lore has a rhyme, a reason, a purpose. You know, so they don't just show up just to scare you and go away. And I'll present this to William so he can tell you more about the deer woman. I think he needs to be one to tell you. So go ahead, Will.
Well, all right. The deer woman, in most native cultures, the deer represents basically the medicine of love, and basically a gentle spirit. You're not going to find too many cultures out there that make it the cryptid creature that rips off human beings and sucks their blood. You know what I mean? So it's more of a, as with any type of visual sighting, you're going to find that a lot of these so-called cryptids are warning signs of something more to come. Even some of them come from like Irish culture too. The Highland cultures of Scotland and Ireland have cryptids of deer and all that too. and like the Banshee and all that, where it's strictly just for warnings, to tell of a certain someone's possible demise of premature death, or to warn you of something. It's even with my people, the Lakota side of my bloodline, we feel that when we hear an owl or when we see an owl, that's a sign that somebody's going to die that we know. And more than likely, every time I've an owl, that actually has come to be true. So just like when people see hawks and eagles, that's a messenger. That's a sign saying that somebody in your ancestry is trying to communicate with you through that spirit of that animal. Because the hawk and the eagle are messengers. The crow, and the owl are the two birds that are allowed to go between both worlds. So you see those, and the turkey vulture. You pretty much know that that's more going to be a heavy sign of something. Deer woman, it's the same thing. It's just a warning is all it is. I mean, I think a lot has to do too with not pareidolia, but I think it has to do with just heightened senses. And here again, we go back to that, because it always tries to grasp the closest thing it can rationalize what you're seeing with your eyes. And like when people see Bigfoot, the only thing they have to compare it to is a silverback gorilla, or with the dogman, that the only thing that they have to compare it is the werewolves of Hollywood. I mean, it's it's that kind of a thing that goes on too. So I think that a lot of the so-called descriptions of Wendigo with the deer antlers and all that might be misconstrued as a deer being coming to show a different thing to somebody, and they misinterpreted it as an evil entity that was gonna rip their soul out. So it's just it depends. I mean, have different entities that are going to come through different ways to people. So right. And Deer Woman's no different than any other. So
right. Well, like any witness that you get or anybody that comes forward on something, it always has to do with perception. What they think they've seen or what they describe may be entirely different than what somebody else sees. I have learned that over time. But I don't know what that really has to do with it, but I just thought about that anyway. I had a you were talking about certain animals and birds and such. I had encounters with owls for about a year. And many people on the channel have heard this, but I'm going to tell it again. My wife had cancer, and she was sick for a year, and I kept seeing all these owls. I kept seeing depictions of owls, people talking about owls, and I was having encounters with tall grays as well, But as it was explained to me by several people on two levels, that maybe the owls were the representation of these ETs, or maybe it was something more spiritual than that. Maybe it was maybe I was seeing it because it was trying to tell me that my wife was going to pass, because she did eventually. And as soon as she passed, I stopped seeing them.
Wow.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, anybody chime in?
Well, I mean, I can understand, and I know what you went through with your wife, because I have gone through 2 battles with cancer so far. That's why I'm not out in the field currently for where I live. But I mean, even like you said, though, as soon as as soon as she passed, you quit seeing them. And I do believe that is what you were seeing was a thing that somebody you knew and you cared about was going to pass. But also at the same time, everything was going to be okay because that person's not subject to the pain of being in a body that's riddled with a disease. So, I've had my esophagus removed and my stomach made my new esophagus. So trust me, I know what pain is. I've gone through 30 plus days of radiation treatments in a row to try and shrink the mass of my esophagus enough to even where they could operate. I was given 6 months to live. That was 2 plus years ago, actually. And since then, I've had several other, encounters with cancer too of it. But I haven't heard the owl yet for me. One thing I tell everybody that I talk to, unless you've dealt with cancer, you really don't know cancer. Unless somebody you love has been affected with cancer, you don't know about cancer.
Right.
It's such a debilitating disease and disease that you almost have to wonder why the creator actually let it evolve the way it did. But there's a lot to the owl thing. If people would actually pay more attention to the signs around them. They say when you find a feather, that it's an angel that dropped the feather from their wing. It's a way that an ancestor of yours is trying to communicate with you. People say when they see a certain type of a butterfly or a ladybug or something or a hummingbird, that's that's one of their that ask that them. So people start looking for signs, okay? And I think as soon as they start looking and noticing them signs again, they're going to start feeling more human again, more connected to everything. And I don't know. I almost feel like that's one of the reasons I'm still here. It's not only just the cryptid thing and the paranormal thing, but with everything that I've dealt with my health. I'm here to teach the younger ones, what to do, and how to handle things. That's why I actually have that symposium on Monday, this coming Monday, on Facebook for everybody. The native dealing with Bigfoot, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot to this world, Lon, that we as human beings don't even have the capability of apprehending. Okay. We don't have the ability to use what little knowledge we have in our pea-sized brains to depict certain reasons for things happening. I mean, you think about the spectrum of light and the spectrum of hearing that we of human beings are able to see and hear is very, very, very small percentage of the whole spectrum. True. So, it's like I told Ryan and Shane, before, we talked, think about all the things we don't see and hear every day that goes on right next to us. Yep. So, I mean, guys, I leave it up to you all to make up your own minds, on what happens in this world that we live in. It is strange, it is unusual, but at the same time, it's big.
Let me ask you this, and this is for all of you. I
leave it up to everybody that's listening.
This is for all of you. You don't want anybody can answer. Do you think the paranormal, and thus those of us who get involved with the paranormal and delve into it and actually do work in the paranormal, does that is that a detriment to our health?
It can be. I think it definitely can be. I mean, you hear about people that go to all these different sites and they encounter negative energy, and I think our bodies can absorb that negative energy. I think our cells can take in that negative energy. And I think when that happens, that's what really makes us sick, and it shortens our lifespans.
Yeah, I think it takes a toll. I mean, I think it has on me, for example. I've been involved with some pretty bad, bad cases. And I think it took a toll on me. I mean, I have had psychic attacks where I literally had some injuries because of it, some physical injuries. But overall, I mean, I think myself that people can be affected by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not too much into the paranormal. I'm still learning a lot about that. But when it comes to cryptids, people have even gotten sick through infrasound. They said that they started feeling like they were going to vomit. And I heard one lady had a heart attack, and
that's the point of infrasound, though, Shane. Infrasound is actually a very natural thing. Yeah. We have animals that we know of that use it, like tigers, orcas, and they use it to stun their prey. So if cryptids do definitely use that, then it's possible infrasound is the same thing for them. It's a means of hunting. So
yeah, like I said, I'm sorry I haven't really been jumping in too much on it. I'm still learning all about the paranormal. So I'm listening to you. I'm picking your guys' brains. So I'm just kind of, like I say, I'm a sponge. I'm just learning it as much as everyone in the chat is, and just like we're all learning based off theory. So.
Well, I think infrasounds and possibly some degrees of mind speak, that cryptids do use. I have heard people that have had encounters with upright canine, Bigfoot, even Mothman or winged humanoids that have been affected physically because of this with the encounter. I mean, in Chicago, we've had people who have literally fallen to the ground because of this encounter. Not from fear, from just physically being weakened. So there's something to that. So maybe there is something to it.
Could be.
Well, I mean, you think about the paranormal field as far as the EMFs and stuff. The EMF is electromagnetic field is going to make anybody that's susceptible to it feel nauseous, dizzy, basically just all around rough. And you get this description with infrasound too. So, but like Ryan was saying, though, the tagger, that's how they basically run their prey. They use infrasound to basically strike so much fear in them that they can't run, they can't hide. So that's the purpose of infrasound. It's a predatory way of dealing with prey. So our own military uses it, to tell you the truth. If you recall back for those of us that are old enough to know, back in the 80s, they used sound devices in Waco, Texas. They used sound devices down in I want to say Honduras, with one of the dictators down that way that was there at the time. Where they blasted certain decibel levels. I mean, sound has been used as a device to cripple, maim, hurt in one shape or form and another with the military for a long time now. So, but yeah, they learned that from the animals. So,
yep,
yeah. I've had people who were the witnesses who have been armed. Just particularly here in Pennsylvania, in a state game land or something, and walked up onto an upright canine. Just walked up to it. These things stand the ground, but they're not attacking people. But this guy has a gun. He has no interest in even raising that gun and taking a shot at this thing, because he tells me, I mean, they have told me, and I've had this numerous times, well, it's like this thing's talking to me, and it's telling me to just back away and everything will be okay. And I mean, you just see, I don't know of anybody other than one person who took a shot at one of these things. And in that case, when they did, this thing just seemed to walk away from it. So
that's where I'm 50-50 on the whole mind speak. I've talked to Ryan, I've talked to D.A. Roberts on it, because I've heard an encounter where a guy down in Louisiana saw something pop out of the tree line, took his scope up to it like he was out hunting, and the thing told him in his head, put the gun down or I will kill you. But thinking of that, I mean, I do keep an open mind to it. I do think, like what DA said to me last week and Ryan, that it's more the primitive back of your head telling you, put it down, get out of there. That could be another, it's just a theory, but I mean, do these things have the capability of mind speaking to you? I do think that, but I think it's more you're in the moment, like Ryan said. These things use infrasound. You're just frozen in the moment, and it's want to get out of there. But I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. I ask so many people different things, and I kind of tally mark, the different ones and what weigh out more that sound more credible. Like, do you think these things really interact with you? I mean, there's people that say they feed and they live and dance with the Bigfoot. Do I believe those ones as much? Maybe not, but the hunters, I take their stories real serious. When they see a Sasquatch or a dogman out there and they're on their turf. So, when they have these encounters but when they say their mind spoken, it opened up a whole new degree of thought for me that I'm like, okay, maybe these things do, but it's all open theory at the end of the day.
True.
Well, I had a Dene elder tell me about it in one particular case. He was up in the Chuska Mountains in Arizona, and something showed up, and he really didn't understand what it was, but he said this thing was talking to him like crazy. I mean, he said I wasn't, conversing with it, but it was telling me in its head, just back away. And and this gentleman, he's been around a long time, but he told me a lot of that stuff, and I believe it. I absolutely believe it.
I don't know, Lon. My dad used to be able to give me the look, and I'd know what he was thinking. So,
well, in that case, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I used to get those looks too. I understand that.
I still get those
mind
looks.
speak involved. Well, guys, before we go here tonight, I want each one of you to tell people how they get in contact with you, and you got anything to advertise, feel free to do so. And I'll start off with Ryan.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Well, you can find me over on Facebook, Ryan Paul Tremblay. That's my full name, so you can find me there. Over on Twitter, I'm Ryan Tremblay 18 for some reason. I don't know why Twitter gave me that weird handle, but they did. Over on Instagram, I'm that Cryptid Ryan. You can find me over on Instagram there. I have a YouTube show that I do with my girlfriend, Ashley. We host Monster Radio. We drop the YouTube videos every Sunday. So if you want to drop by and talk to us underneath our videos, we'll get back to you and, we'll converse a little bit.
Very good. How about you, William?
Well, you can get a hold of me, Hawkeye Strangeness, on YouTube and Facebook. You can friend me at William Nighthawk on Facebook. And I also have Patreon and all that too with Nighthawk Eye Strangeness. But yeah, I have quite a bit going on. I have a, like I said earlier, a Bigfoot Symposium going on Monday on Facebook for Native Americans who, have dealt with the Bigfoot thing, and to tell people a certain aspect of it, dealing with the subject from a Native view, and what not to do and what to do. So, but that's pretty much it. Yeah.
And you, Shane?
You can find me on Facebook at same name that's posted on the screen, Shane Michael Crisp, or you can find me at my Facebook group, West Coast Dogman Project. I've got 6 other pages all dedicated to cryptids under the West Coast name, whether it's Gugway, Sasquatch, Skinwalker, Chupacabra, UFO. I've tried to do it all, but mainly I'm focused on the dogmen, so you can find me there. Or I started doing interviews about 2 months ago. So if you've had a dogman encounter and want to talk about it, reach out to me on YouTube at West Coast Dogman Project. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, guys, I want to thank each and one of you for coming on tonight, and we definitely want to keep in touch. And I definitely want to have you all back on at some point to talk about some things. So you've got an open invitation. So again, thanks for coming on, and you all have a good weekend.
Namaste, guys.
You guys have a good one. Thank you.
Take it easy, everybody.
Take care.
Now, if you have an unexplained encounter in sighting, feel free to contact me through the Phantoms and Monsters blog site. I want to again thank my guests for joining me this evening. I thought it was a very good conversation. I learned a lot, to be honest with you. And thanks to each and all you for watching and chatting. If you did make a super chat donation, it's truly appreciated. Your support is what makes this possible. So please like, subscribe, and share, as well as comment. We always look for comments about our videos and our interviews. So please feel free to do so. Again, if you have a sighting or encounter report you'd like to be considered for the personal report show or post it on Phantoms of Monsters, feel free to forward to my email at lonstrickler@phantomsofmonsters.com. Now, next Wednesday night, I will narrate several more personal reports. So make sure to join me for that. That'll be at 9:00 p.m. Eastern, 6:00 p.m. Pacific. In fact, I may be having a giveaway that night as well. So make sure to tune in. And next Friday night, I'm going to welcome professional clairvoyant, medical intuitive, and ET author Sue Walker. It should be quite an interesting show. So make sure you join in for that. So until next week, stay healthy and have a safe, enjoyable weekend. Good night.